Let's talk about something that directly affects your ability to keep your CDL and continue working as a professional driver: the Department of Transportation's drug and alcohol testing regulations. I know regulations can seem overwhelming, but understanding these rules is about more than just staying compliant. It's about protecting your career, your safety, and the safety of everyone else on the road. Whether you're a company driver or an owner-operator, these regulations apply to you, and knowing them inside and out is absolutely essential. We're going to break down the key regulations, explain what they mean in plain language, and show you exactly what you need to do. By the time we're done, you'll be able to identify the two main federal regulations, explain the difference between them, understand who is subject to testing and when it happens, recognize what they're testing for, and describe the consequences of a violation. When it comes to DOT drug and alcohol testing, everything starts with two core federal regulations. Think of them as the official rule book for staying drug and alcohol free in the transportation industry. The first one is 49 CFR Part 40. You can think of this as the how-to manual for all DOT-mandated drug and alcohol testing, no matter what type of transportation work you do. Whether you're driving a truck, flying a plane, or operating a train, Part 40 sets the universal standard procedures that everyone, everywhere, must follow. It covers three critical areas. First, specimen collection and testing. This regulation spells out precisely how urine and breath samples must be collected, handled, and analyzed. These strict procedures ensure that every test is done in a scientifically sound and legally defensible way. When you go to a collection site, the person there is following Part 40 procedures to the letter, all to protect the integrity of your sample. Second, Part 40 dictates how results are reported. It establishes the formal process for how test results are communicated to employers and, as of January 2020, to the FMCSA Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. This system ensures that any violations are properly documented and that drivers who have an issue get the appropriate intervention they need. And third, it outlines the return to duty process. If a driver does have a violation, Part 40 specifies the exact steps that must be taken before that driver can get back to safety-sensitive work. This isn't arbitrary. It includes a formal evaluation by a substance abuse professional, the completion of any required treatment or education, and finally, passing a specific return-to-duty test. So, that's Part 40, the Universal Rule Book. The second key regulation is 49 CFR Part 382. While Part 40 provides the general framework for everyone, Part 382 contains the specific drug and alcohol testing rules just for the trucking industry. It answers three essential questions for anyone with a CDL. First, who gets tested? The answer is all drivers who operate a commercial motor vehicle that requires a CDL on public roads. This includes company drivers and owner-operators alike. If you hold a CDL and drive a commercial vehicle, you are subject to these regulations. Second, when does testing occur? Part 382 specifies the exact circumstances under which you must be tested. It covers pre-employment screening before you can even start a job. It mandates random testing throughout the year. It requires post-accident testing under certain conditions. It also includes testing based on reasonable suspicion, as well as the return to duty and follow-up tests we mentioned earlier. And third, it clearly defines what drug and alcohol-related behavior is not allowed. This isn't just about testing positive. It also includes refusing to take a test, attempting to adulterate a sample, or using alcohol within 4 hours of going on duty. You might be wondering why there are two separate regulations. The reason is simple and effective. Part 40 ensures consistency across all modes of transportation. The procedures for a truck driver being tested in California are the same as for a pilot in New York or a railroad engineer in Texas. This universal standard guarantees fairness and integrity in the process itself. Then, Part 382 layers on the specific requirements for our industry, the trucking industry, defining exactly who needs to be tested and under what circumstances. Together, these two regulations create a comprehensive system. It's a system designed not to punish, but to protect. It's there to keep impaired drivers off the road and to ensure that those who do violate the rules get the help they need before returning to the driver's seat. Knowing these rules isn't a burden, it's a mark of professionalism. It's your responsibility, your protection, and your key to a long and safe career on the open road.
Let's be crystal clear about this. If you operate a commercial motor vehicle that requires a commercial driver's license, a CDL, you are subject to Department of Transportation drug and alcohol testing. This applies across the board, whether you are a company driver for a large motor carrier, a part-time operator, an owner-operator running under your own authority, or one who leases to a carrier. There are no loopholes based on the size of your fleet or how many miles you drive. If you're behind the wheel of a CMV in a commercial capacity, these rules are your rules. So the next logical question is, when does this testing happen? The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or FMCSA, has laid out 6 specific situations that trigger a test. Think of them as 6 distinct checkpoints on your professional journey: pre-employment, random, post-accident, reasonable suspicion, return to duty, and follow-up. Each one is initiated for a very specific reason. Let's start at the beginning of any new driving job: pre-employment testing. Before you perform a single safety-sensitive function, that means before you even turn the key for a new employer, you must pass a pre-employment drug test. This happens after you've received a conditional offer of employment, but before you start working. For owner-operators, this means getting a negative test on file before you begin operating under your own authority. If you're moving between carriers, you will need a new test, unless there is a specific exception where your previous employer can document your recent participation in a testing program. And a quick but important update on a related topic: as of January 10, 2026, the temporary paper system for medical certificates is gone. Employers must verify your medical certification exclusively through your motor vehicle record, or MVR, obtained from your state. Next is random testing. This one causes the most confusion, but the principle is simple. It's unannounced and unpredictable. The selection process has to be truly random, using a scientifically valid method that ensures every driver in the pool has an equal chance of being picked each time a selection is made. This means you could be selected several times in a year, or you might not be selected at all. When you get that notification, you must proceed immediately to the collection site. Immediately is a word that gets misinterpreted. It doesn't mean within 2 hours or when it's convenient. It means that every action you take from that moment forward must be to get to the testing site. The current annual rate for random drug testing must cover at least 50% of a carrier's average number of driver positions, and for alcohol, it's at least 10%. Now, for you owner-operators, this is a critical point. You cannot manage a random testing program for yourself. You are required to join a random testing consortium. This pools you with other employers and owner-operators, and an independent administrator handles the DOT-compliant random selections. The third trigger is post-accident testing. This isn't required for every single fender bender. The rules are very specific. Mandatory testing is required if the accident involves a fatality, if there is bodily injury requiring immediate medical treatment away from the scene and you receive a citation, or if there is disabling damage to any vehicle that requires a tow-away and you receive a citation. Notice that for injury or tow-away accidents, a citation is the key. For a fatality, testing is required, period. The timing here is absolutely critical. Alcohol testing must be done within 8 hours of the accident, and you are prohibited from consuming any alcohol until that test is done or until 8 hours have passed. Drug testing has a wider window, but must be conducted within 32 hours. If a test isn't administered in these timeframes, a clear record must be made explaining why.
The fourth situation is reasonable suspicion testing. If a trained supervisor observes behavior or appearance that suggests you might be under the influence, they can require a test. The key word here is trained. The supervisor can't just have a hunch. They must have completed at least 60 minutes of training on alcohol misuse and another 60 minutes on controlled substance use. This training covers the specific physical, behavioral, speech, and performance indicators of probable impairment. For employers who haven't completed this, a DOT-qualified substance abuse professional can provide the necessary course. An important distinction: a reasonable suspicion alcohol test can only be ordered just before, during, or just after you're performing safety-sensitive duties. A drug test, however, can be ordered anytime you're on duty. The final two testing types, return to duty and follow-up, apply after a driver has had a drug or alcohol violation. If you violate the rules, you can't just get back behind the wheel. You must successfully complete the entire return to duty process, which is overseen by a substance abuse professional, or SAP. The final step is passing a return to duty test. This test must be negative for drugs or show a blood alcohol level below 0.02, and it must be conducted under direct observation, meaning a collector will watch you provide the urine sample. Once you've returned to duty, you're not done. You'll be subject to a series of unannounced follow-up tests. Your SAP determines the plan, but it will include a minimum of 6 tests in the first 12 months, and it can continue for up to 5 years. All of these follow-up tests are also conducted under direct observation. So we've covered who gets tested and when. Now let's talk about what they're testing for. For drugs, the DOT has long used a standard 5-panel test. When your sample goes to the lab, they are looking for evidence of 5 specific categories of drugs. Marijuana, or THC, this is probably the most important one to be clear about. It doesn't matter if marijuana is legal for recreational or medical use in your state. Under federal law and DOT regulations, any use is prohibited for a CDL driver performing safety-sensitive functions. A state-issued medical marijuana card is not a valid medical explanation for a positive test. The federal rules are absolute on this. Next is cocaine, a powerful and illegal stimulant. Then there are amphetamines, which includes methamphetamine. Some prescription drugs, like Adderall for ADHD, fall into this category. If you have a valid prescription, you must disclose it to the medical review officer, or MRO, who will verify it. It is always wise to discuss any prescription medications and their potential impact on safety with your prescribing doctor. The fourth panel is for PCP, an illegal hallucinogen. Finally, we have opioids. This includes heroin as well as prescription painkillers like codeine and morphine. In 2017, the DOT expanded this panel to also include 4 commonly prescribed semi-synthetic opioids: hydrocodone, oxycodone, hydromorphone, and oxymorphone. And the panel is about to expand again. The DOT has proposed adding fentanyl and norfentanyl to the standard testing panel, and this change is expected to be finalized in early 2026. Given the potency of fentanyl and its impact on public health, this is a significant and necessary update. Once the rule is final, fentanyl will be included in both urine and the newer oral fluid testing panels. Lastly, there's alcohol testing. This is separate from the drug test and uses a different method. A DOT alcohol test uses an evidential breath testing device to measure your blood alcohol concentration, or BAC. And there are 2 key numbers to remember: 0.02 and 0.04. If you test at 0.02 or greater, but less than 0.04, you are immediately prohibited from performing safety-sensitive duties for at least 24 hours. If you test at 0.04 or greater, it's considered a full-blown violation. You'll be removed from duty and required to go through the entire return-to-duty process with a SAP, just like with a positive drug test. The rules also prohibit you from consuming alcohol within 4 hours of going on duty or while on duty. These regulations aren't just a list of rules to memorize for a test. They are a framework designed to protect everyone. They protect you, your fellow drivers, and every single person who shares the road with you.
Understanding them, respecting them, and living by them is a fundamental part of being a professional driver. It's a commitment to safety that goes far beyond just getting from point A to point B. It's about ensuring everyone gets home safely every single day.
For decades, a critical information gap existed in the trucking industry. A driver with a drug or alcohol violation could simply move to a new employer, and without the driver disclosing it, that new employer might never know. A driver could fail a test at one company on a Monday, walk out, apply somewhere new on a Tuesday, and be back on the highway by Friday. This wasn't a rare occurrence. It was a dangerous loophole, a blind spot that put everyone on the road at risk. But in 2020, that all changed. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration launched a new tool, a digital sentinel, designed to close this loophole for good and ensure that a driver's safety record follows the driver, not the job. This is the story of the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. The Clearinghouse is a secure, centralized online database. Think of it as the single source of truth for drug and alcohol program violations involving commercial drivers. It connects all the key players in the compliance process in real time. It's a digital hub linking employers, drivers, medical review officers, substance abuse professionals, and even state licensing agencies. It creates a complete picture where one never existed before. And make no mistake, its use is not optional. Every single FMCSA regulated employer, every driver holding a commercial license, and every service agent involved in the process must be registered and must use the Clearinghouse. It's now a fundamental part of the safety landscape. For employers and their designated employer representatives, or DERs, the responsibilities within the system are distilled into two core functions. You must query the system to check driver records, and you must report any violations that occur under your authority. Let's start with the first duty, the duty to query. This is the process of looking into the database. First, and most critically, is the pre-employment query. Before you hire any driver for a safety-sensitive position, you are required to conduct a full query of the Clearinghouse. A full query gives you a complete, detailed view of any and all drug or alcohol program violations in that driver's record. It shows the type of violation, the date, and information on their return to duty status, if any. This is the step that slams the old loophole shut. But there's a crucial element to this: consent. You cannot simply look up a potential hire. A full query requires specific electronic consent from the driver, which they must provide from within their own Clearinghouse account. The process works like this. You, the employer, log in and initiate the query request. The driver then receives a notification in their own Clearinghouse portal. They must log in and affirmatively grant you permission to see their record. Until they click that consent button, their information remains private. This process puts the driver in control of their information while ensuring you have the data you need to make a safe hiring decision. But the querying doesn't stop once a driver is hired. You must also conduct a query on every driver you employ at least once every 12 months. This is known as the annual query. Now, this annual check can be a little different. It can be what's called a limited query. A limited query is a more basic check. It only tells you if a record exists for that driver in the database. It's a simple yes or no answer. It doesn't reveal the details of any violation, just its presence. If the result of the limited query comes back showing that a record does exist, a clock starts ticking. You then have exactly 24 hours to conduct a full query to see the detailed information. And just like the pre-employment check, that follow-up full query requires the driver's electronic consent from within their account. The consent for the initial limited query is different, however. It requires a general consent form that is kept outside the Clearinghouse, often signed as part of the initial hiring paperwork. This single signature can cover limited queries for the entire duration of a driver's employment with your company. So, to recap, new hires get a full query. Current employees get a limited query annually. If that limited query flags a record, it triggers the need for an immediate full query. That covers looking into the system.
The other side of the coin is putting information into it. This is your second core responsibility, the duty to report violations. You must report several specific types of violations. First, any alcohol confirmation tests with a result of 0.04 or greater. Second, any refusal to submit to a required test, whether for drugs or alcohol. And third, something called actual knowledge of a violation. This is for situations a medical review officer might not be aware of, like a driver admitting to using illegal drugs or alcohol before performing a safety-sensitive function. This reporting is extremely time-sensitive. Violations must be reported to the Clearinghouse by the close of the third business day following the date you were informed of the violation. 3 days. That speed is absolutely critical. It ensures that if that driver leaves your company, their record is updated almost immediately, preventing them from simply jumping to another carrier the next day. This rapid reporting is what makes the system effective and keeps the safety loophole permanently closed. The system is built on a foundation of transparency, and that extends to drivers. A driver can access their own Clearinghouse record at any time, completely free of charge. They can see exactly what their record contains. They can also see a list of which employers have conducted queries on their record and when. And if a driver believes information in their record is incorrect, they have a right to challenge it through the FMCSA's official data queue system. This isn't a one-way street. It's an ecosystem of shared, verifiable information. Now, there's a unique group we need to talk about: owner-operators. The rules are a bit different when you are your own employer. An owner-operator cannot manage their own clearinghouse compliance. You can't query yourself or report your own violations. Instead, you must designate a consortium/third-party administrator, or CTPA, in the clearinghouse. This CTPA effectively acts as your DER. They are the ones who will conduct the required queries on your record and report any violations on your behalf. As an owner-operator, you still must have that query conducted on your own record annually, just like any other driver. It's a necessary check and balance to ensure everyone operating under an FMCSA number is held to the same standard. The Clearinghouse is more than just a website or a regulatory hurdle. It is the digital guardian of the road. It creates a system of accountability that was impossible before its existence. It ensures that crucial safety information follows the driver, providing the transparency needed to keep our highways safe for everyone. Mastering this tool, understanding the duty to query and to report, is a non-negotiable part of running a compliant and safe operation. It's about upholding a promise to every other driver, every family, and every car that the person behind the wheel of that 80,000-pound vehicle is qualified, clear, and focused. It's a promise that the roads we all share are as safe as they can possibly be. That is the power of shared information. That is the new standard of safety.
In the world of Department of Transportation compliance, there is a saying that's repeated so often it has become gospel. If it isn't documented, it didn't happen. Your program is only as strong as the paper trail you leave behind. This is where we explore the critical, often overlooked world of record keeping, the management of your service agents, and how to prepare for the moment when a DOT auditor walks through your door. The DOT requires employers to maintain specific records for specific periods of time. This retention schedule is not arbitrary. It's designed to ensure a complete audit trail for the life of your program. Think of it in 3 main categories. First, and most critical, are the records you must keep for 5 full years. These are directly related to violations. This includes any alcohol test result of 0.02 or greater. It includes all verified positive drug test results. It covers any instance of a refusal to test. It also requires you to hold on to all substance abuse professional reports and their follow-up evaluations. And finally, every single follow-up test result must be filed away for that 5-year period. These documents form the core history of the most serious events in your program. The next category down is 2 years. For 2 years, you must keep records related to the testing process itself. This means documentation of the alcohol and drug collection procedures, ensuring they were followed to the letter. It includes the records that detail your random selection process, proof that it was truly random and unbiased, and it covers all education and training records for both drivers and supervisors. These files prove the integrity of your day-to-day operations. Finally, there is the 1-year category. For 1 year, negative drug test results and alcohol test results that came back under 0.02 must be kept for 1 year. Any canceled tests also fall into this group. While these might seem less critical, they are absolutely essential for demonstrating the full scope and activity of your testing program over the last 12 months. Together, these 3 retention periods create a comprehensive history. All of these records, every single page, must be maintained in a secure location with controlled access, a locked filing cabinet, a password-protected server. Confidentiality is not just a best practice, it is a legal requirement. So who can actually access these sensitive records? The rules are very specific. Without a driver's written consent, access is strictly limited to 4 parties. First, employer decision-makers, which means the designated employer representative, or DER. Second, official representatives from the DOT and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Third, the National Transportation Safety Board, but only in the event of a post-accident investigation. And fourth, state safety auditors conducting their reviews. That's the entire list. Any other release of records requires specific, explicit written consent from the driver. This applies to future employers conducting background checks, it applies to insurance companies, and it even applies to the driver's own attorney. The driver must sign off on it. However, it is crucial to remember that drivers are always entitled to copies of their own records. If they provide a written request, you must provide them with their files. It's their information and their right. Most employers don't go it alone. They rely on a network of service agents to help manage their program. These partners are vital. They include consortiums or third-party administrators, often called CTAPs, who might manage your random testing pool. They include the medical review officers, or MROs, the licensed physicians who review and verify lab results. They include substance abuse professionals, the SAPs, who guide employees through the return-to-duty process after a violation. And they include the collectors, the technicians who ensure samples are collected correctly. Each plays a specialized role, but here is the single most critical point about using service agents. While you can delegate tasks to these partners, you absolutely cannot delegate responsibility. You, the employer, remain ultimately and completely liable for the actions and the failures of your service agents. This means you must ensure all of your contracts and agreements are current. You must verify that every single agent is complying with federal regulations, specifically 49 CFR Part 40. If your CTAP fails to conduct random tests at the required annual rate, you are liable. If your MRO fails to follow the proper verification procedures after a positive, you are liable. Overseeing your service agents is not an optional task you can offload. It is a core responsibility of the designated employer representative. Eventually, you may face an audit. The best defense against a compliance audit is a strong offense built on proactive preparation. The most common violations found during DOT audits are almost always entirely preventable. They include simply failing to implement a drug and alcohol testing policy in the first place. A surprisingly common and costly mistake is using a driver before receiving a negative pre-employment test result. Another is failing to conduct random tests at the required rates for the year. And finally, a frequent violation is failing to provide the required drug and alcohol training for supervisors. These are fundamental errors that meticulous oversight can prevent. To prepare, your audit readiness checklist should be a living document. Regularly review all driver qualification files for completeness. Cross-reference and verify that your Management Information System data, your MIS reports,
perfectly match your random testing summaries. Ensure all contracts with your service agents are current and signed, and confirm that all queries in the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse, both the initial pre-employment queries and all subsequent annual queries, are properly conducted and recorded for every single driver. And never forget the golden rule we started with: if it isn't documented, it didn't happen. Meticulous, organized, and secure record-keeping is your strongest defense and your clearest proof of diligence. The paper trail is the backbone of your entire DOT program. It is the hard evidence of your commitment to safety. It is the definitive proof of your compliance, and it is the shield that protects your company and you during an audit. Managing it well is the mark of a true professional. Throughout this process, from understanding the complex regulations to mastering the clearinghouse, from managing the day-to-day testing program to handling the difficult process of a violation, and finally, to maintaining the records that hold it all together, the role of the designated employer representative is clear. You are the guardian of the road. Your diligence, your commitment to the rules, and your personal integrity are what keep our highways safe for everyone. Thank you for taking on this profound responsibility. Stay compliant, stay safe.
You're standing at the pharmacy counter picking up a prescription your doctor gave you for chronic pain, or maybe for the anxiety that keeps you up at night. The pharmacist hands you the bottle, and your eyes catch the warning label: may cause drowsiness, do not operate heavy machinery. And in that moment, you're faced with a brutal choice. Do you take the medicine you need to manage your health, or do you protect your CDL, your career, your livelihood? For thousands of commercial drivers, this isn't a hypothetical, it's a daily reality. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do, managing your health responsibly. Your condition is under control, but the very medication that controls it might be the thing that disqualifies you. This is the medication paradox, and it's one of the top reasons drivers fail their DOG physicals. But it doesn't have to be a career ender. There is a pathway forward. First, let's be clear about why these rules exist. It's not about punishment, it's about safety. Certain medications can directly impair your ability to drive safely. They can cause drowsiness or sedation, making it hard to stay alert. They can cause dizziness or lightheadedness, affecting your balance. Some can impair your coordination, slow your reaction time, or cloud your judgment. The consequences are catastrophic, not just for you, but for everyone on the road. The federal regulation, 49 CFR 392.4, is strict. But buried inside that regulation is a critical exception. It says that if your prescribing doctor writes a letter stating that you are safe to operate a commercial vehicle while taking the medication, the medical examiner may certify you. Notice that word may, not will. It means there's a chance, but only with the right approach and the perfect documentation. So let's navigate the maze together. We'll break it down into the 8 major medication categories that affect your certification. First, the ones that are almost always a hard stop. Category 1, narcotic pain medications, or opioids. This includes things like Vicodin, Percocet, morphine, and even tramadol. They are generally disqualifying because they directly affect your judgment and reaction time. Now, in very rare cases, a driver on a stable, low-dose opioid for chronic pain might get a short-term certification, maybe 3 to 6 months, but this requires extensive documentation from a pain specialist, proving you've been on the same low dose for months with 0 sedation. It's a very high bar to clear. Category 2 is similar: benzodiazepines and sedatives. These are medications for anxiety and sleep like Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, and sleeping pills like Ambien or Lunesta. Like opioids, they cause significant sedation and impair coordination. Exceptions are almost non-existent. Most examiners will not certify a driver on these medications. If you take these, your best bet is to talk to your doctor about non-sedative alternatives, cognitive behavioral therapy, or sleep hygiene strategies. Finally, in this hard stop group is Category 7, medical marijuana and CBD.
This is a non-negotiable. It is absolutely disqualifying. It doesn't matter if it's legal in your state or if you have a medical prescription. Under federal law, which is what the DOT follows, marijuana is a Schedule I substance. And because CBD products are unregulated and can contain THC, they are also disqualifying. Any amount of THC in your system means a failed drug test and the end of your certification. There are no exceptions. Now for the categories where you have more options. Let's start with Category 3, muscle relaxants. Think Flexeril or Robaxin. These are usually disqualifying while you're actively taking them because they cause drowsiness. But the key words are while taking them. Often these are prescribed for short-term injuries. Better long-term alternatives that won't risk your CDL include physical therapy, stretching, and non-sedative pain relievers. Next up, Category 4, sedative antihistamines. This is the easy fix. If you're taking Benadryl or Vistaril for allergies, you're putting your certification at risk. The solution is simple. Switch to a non-sedative alternative like Claritin, Zyrtec, or Allegra. They work just as well for allergies without the dangerous side effect of drowsiness. It's a simple swap that can save your career. Category 5 is psychiatric medications. This is handled on a case-by-case basis and can be a huge source of stress. The good news is that many common antidepressants like SSRIs, Prozac, Zolta, or SNRIs like Cymbalta are often acceptable if you've been on a stable dose for a while and aren't having side effects. The key question the examiner will ask is, does the medication cause sedation or impairment? If the answer is no, and your underlying condition is stable, you can likely be certified. Category 6 is anti-seizure medications. This one is tricky. If you're taking these medications for a seizure disorder, you are generally disqualified. However, many of these same drugs are used for other conditions like nerve pain, neuropathy, or migraine prevention. If that's you, you absolutely must have a detailed letter from your doctor explicitly stating the medication is not for seizures, that you have no history of seizures, and that the medication does not impair you. That letter is everything. Finally, there's a category that might surprise you. Category 8, stimulants. Medications for ADHD or narcolepsy, like Adderall or Ritalin. These may be acceptable, but you need ironclad documentation. This means a valid prescription for an approved condition and a detailed letter from your doctor explaining that the medication actually improves your ability to drive safely rather than impairing it. So, how do you put this all together? Let's look at a real-world example. Meet Sarah. She's been driving for 12 years. 6 months ago, she developed chronic back pain from a herniated disc, and her doctor prescribed hydrocodone, an opioid. Sarah knows this is a problem. Her DOT physical is in 2 months. Instead of waiting and hoping, she acts. She goes back to her doctor before her physical. She explains her job and asks for alternatives. Her doctor suggests a new plan: physical therapy twice a week, a switch to a non-opioid pain medication, and a targeted steroid injection. Sarah follows through. Her pain is significantly reduced, and she's off the disqualifying medication. Her doctor writes a detailed letter explaining the new treatment plan. At her physical, Sarah provides the letter. The medical examiner is satisfied she's managing her pain safely without impairment. Sarah walks out with a full 2-year certification. Her story shows the power of being proactive. This brings us to your action plan. Before your next physical, make a list of every single medication you take: prescription, over-the-counter, supplements, everything. Review that list with your prescribing doctor, explain you're a commercial driver, and ask if any medications could be an issue, and discuss non-disqualifying alternatives. Never, ever stop a medication on your own. If you're on a potentially disqualifying drug, request that detailed letter we've been talking about. Bring all of this documentation to your DOT physical. Be honest and be prepared. Your health matters. Your career matters. You shouldn't have to choose between them. With the right knowledge, the right documentation, and proactive communication with your doctors, you can navigate the medication maze. Thousands of drivers do it successfully every year, and you can too.
Your DOT medical card is more than just a piece of paper in your wallet. It's your license to operate, your key to the highway. But for many drivers, the physical exam to get that card is a source of anxiety and confusion. What are they even looking for? Why is it so strict? Let's clear the air and break down exactly what the DOT physical is, and more importantly, why it matters for your safety and your career. First, let's get to the core of it. Why does this exam even exist? The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or FMCSA, isn't trying to make your life difficult. They're trying to keep everyone safe on the road. Driving a commercial vehicle is incredibly demanding, both physically and mentally. The regulations, specifically 49 CFR Part 391.41, are designed to ensure every driver is healthy enough to handle those demands. Medical examiners are essentially looking for red flags in three main categories. First, is there any condition that could cause sudden incapacitation? Think about a sudden heart attack, a seizure, or a diabetic emergency behind the wheel of an 80,000-pound rig. The consequences could be catastrophic. Second, they check for anything that could impair your control of the vehicle. This includes issues with your vision or hearing. Can you see that four-wheeler cutting you off? Can you hear a siren or another truck's horn? It's fundamental to safe operation. The third category covers chronic conditions that can be made worse by the demands of driving. Long hours, irregular sleep, and stress can take a toll. Conditions like untreated high blood pressure, diabetes, or sleep apnea can become serious safety risks if not properly managed. So, if you hold a CDL, operate a vehicle over 10,000 pounds, or transport hazardous materials, this exam is a legal requirement. It's the baseline for ensuring you're fit for duty. Now, you might hear the terms interstate and intrastate commerce thrown around. It's a simple but crucial distinction. Interstate commerce is when you, your vehicle, or your cargo cross state lines. This applies to the vast majority of commercial drivers. Even if your route is only 50 miles, but it starts in Texas and ends in Oklahoma, that's interstate. Intrastate commerce means you and your cargo stay exclusively within a single state's borders. While states have their own rules for intrastate driving, they often mirror the federal standards. For our purposes, we're focusing on the federal DOT requirements that govern interstate commerce, because that's what most of you operate under. Understanding this difference is key because the federal rules are the foundation for the entire system. So, you pass your exam. How long is your medical card good for? The answer depends entirely on your health. For a driver with no underlying medical conditions, the standard certificate is valid for 2 years. That's the best case scenario. However, many drivers are issued a 1-year certificate. This is common for individuals managing chronic but stable conditions, like high blood pressure or diabetes. The 1-year check-in allows the medical examiner to monitor the condition and ensure it's still well controlled and isn't posing a new risk. In some cases, you might even get a 3-month temporary certificate. This usually happens when the examiner needs more information before making a final decision. For example, they might need a note from your heart specialist or the results from a sleep study. The 3-month card gives you time to get that documentation without pulling you off the road. And of course, there's the possibility of a temporary disqualification. This isn't a career ender, it simply means you have a condition that needs to be addressed before you can be certified as safe to drive. So, who are these medical examiners making these critical decisions? You can't just go to any doctor. The person performing your DOT physical must be listed on the National Registry of Certified Medical Examiners, or NRCME. This is a big deal. To get on this registry, a healthcare professional, whether they're a medical doctor, a doctor of osteopathy, a physician assistant, an advanced practice nurse, or a chiropractor, has to complete specific training and pass a certification test. This ensures they know the FMCSA regulations inside and out. They understand the unique pressures of commercial driving and what specific medical conditions mean for a driver. Finding one is easy. The FMCSA has an online search tool on the NRCME website. You just type in your zip code and it will give you a list of every certified examiner in your area. This is important. You have the right to choose any certified examiner. You're not locked into one your company picks. So take a moment to choose wisely. Consider their experience with drivers, their location, their availability, and the cost. A good medical examiner sees themselves as part of your team, helping you stay healthy and on the road. Now, let's talk about a huge change that's just around the corner. By now, you're used to getting that paper medical certificate and making sure a copy gets to your state's driver licensing agency. Well, that whole process is about to go digital. The system is called the National Registry Integration Initiative, or NRII. There's been a waiver in place for a while, but that's set to end in April of 2026. After that date, the process becomes seamless and electronic. Here's how it will work. When you complete your physical, the medical examiner will electronically submit your results and your certificate directly to the National Registry. The registry then automatically transmits that information to your state's licensing agency, which updates your medical status on your motor vehicle record, your MVR, almost instantly. For you, this means no more rushing to the DMV, no more worrying about lost paperwork. For employers and law enforcement, it means they can verify your medical status in real time. The biggest reasons for this change are fraud prevention and efficiency. It makes it nearly impossible to falsify a medical card, and it ensures your record is always up to date. This is the future of medical certification, and is designed to make the system more secure and reliable for everyone. So let's recap the essentials. The DOT physical exists to ensure you're medically fit to handle the immense responsibility of driving a commercial vehicle. Your certification length, whether it's 2 years, 1 year, or temporary, depends on your health. You must use a certified examiner from the National Registry, and you can find one easily online. And finally, get ready for the shift to a fully electronic system coming in 2026. Understanding these fundamentals transforms the exam from a roadblock into a routine checkup, a vital part of maintaining your professional career. Now that you know the what and the why, the next step is to prepare for the how. In our next session, we'll walk through exactly what happens during the exam and what you can do to prepare for a smooth and successful certification.
All right, let's talk about the one appointment that holds the key to your livelihood, the DOT physical. For many drivers, it's a source of anxiety. You wonder if your blood pressure will spike, if you forgot some piece of paperwork, if this is the time you get a short-term card, or worse. But what if you could walk into that exam room with complete confidence, knowing you've done everything possible to ensure success? That's exactly what we're going to build today, your personal checklist for acing the DOT physical. This isn't about luck, it's about preparation. First, let's get on the same page about what the exam actually is. It's a mandatory health assessment to make sure you're physically and mentally fit to safely operate a commercial vehicle. The examiner isn't trying to fail you. They're following federal safety regulations. They'll go over your health history, check your blood pressure and pulse, take a urine sample to look for sugar, test your vision and hearing, and listen to your heart and lungs. It's a comprehensive look under the hood, so to speak. Your job is to make sure your engine is running smoothly before you pull into the garage. Your preparation starts weeks, not hours, before your appointment. Step 1, find the right mechanic. Your examiner must be on the FMCSA's National Registry of Certified Medical Examiners. Don't just go to any clinic. Use the search tool on the official National Registry website. If you get a physical from an unlisted provider, that medical card is worthless and your CDL could be suspended. It's a 5-minute search that can save your career. Next, let's talk about managing your health in the lead-up. High blood pressure is the #1 reason drivers fail. Don't shoot yourself in the foot on exam day. For at least 24 hours beforehand, avoid coffee, energy drinks, and nicotine. These things temporarily jack up your blood pressure. Focus on hydration and a healthy, low-sodium diet in the weeks prior. If you're on blood pressure medication, take it as prescribed. Your goal is to show your condition is well managed. If you have sleep apnea and use CPAP, compliance is everything. The examiner will want to see proof you're actually using it. The standard is pretty clear. Usage for more than 4 hours per night at least 70% of the time. Get that compliance report ready. A few more pregame tips. Fill out the health history form at home when you're relaxed and can be thorough. Stay hydrated so you can provide a urine sample. And on that note, try not to use the restroom right before you're called back. Simple things, but they make the process smoother. Now, let's pack your bag. What you bring to the appointment is just as important as your physical condition. This is where drivers often get tripped up, leading to delays or return visits. First, the basics: your driver's license, your previous medical card if you have one, and if you wear them, your glasses, contacts, or hearing aids.
Next is the single most important document you will bring, a complete list of all your medications, and I mean everything. Prescriptions, over-the-counter stuff, vitamins, supplements. The list needs the name of the drug, the dosage, the reason you take it, and the name and contact info for the doctor who prescribed it. An even better pro tip, just bring the actual medication bottles with you. There's no ambiguity then. Now for the specific conditions. This is where having your ducks in a row is critical. If you have a chronic condition, you need documentation from your treating specialist that proves it's well managed and you are safe to operate a commercial vehicle. For diabetes, that means your latest hemoglobin A1C results, and if you're on insulin, the completed FMCSA 5870 form from your endocrinologist. For a heart condition, maybe a past heart attack or bypass surgery, you'll need a letter from your cardiologist clearing you, likely along with results from a recent stress test. For sleep apnea, bring that CPAP compliance report we talked about. For a new certification, they want to see at least 30 days of use. For recertification, it could be 90 days or even a full year's worth of data. If you're on blood thinners like Coumadin, bring your recent INR level reports. For any mental health condition, you'll need a note from your provider stating your condition is stable and your medications don't cause daytime sleepiness. The theme here is simple. Don't just tell the medical examiner you're fine. Bring the proof from the doctor who treats your specific condition. A letter that says, "Patient is safe to operate a CMV" is golden. So, why does all this matter? Because the most common reasons for disqualification are things you can manage. Uncontrolled high blood pressure, unmanaged diabetes, untreated sleep apnea, poor vision you haven't gotten corrected, using a medication that's known to impair driving without clearance from your doctor. Each one of these roadblocks can be addressed with proactive health management and proper documentation. By preparing, you are taking control of the outcome. And you'll want to be prepared because the system itself is changing. As of June 2025, the process of reporting your medical certificate is going fully electronic. This is a big deal. The medical examiner will now transmit your results directly to the FMCSA by midnight the next day. The FMCSA then zaps that information to your state's DMV, automatically updating your driving record. What does this mean for you? It means no more taking that paper certificate down to the DMV yourself. Your medical status will be tied directly to your license in the system. Your employer will verify your status by checking your motor vehicle record, or MVR, not by collecting a paper copy from you. The goal is a more streamlined, accurate system. Now, with any big government change, there can be hiccups. Temporary waivers are in place to allow for a transition period with paper copies, but the future is digital. And remember, this new electronic system is for CDL and CLP holders. If you're a driver who doesn't need a CDL but still needs a DOT physical, you'll continue to get and carry the paper certificate. So, let's bring it all home. The DOT physical isn't a test you cram for the night before. It's a reflection of your ongoing commitment to your health and your profession. Your health is the most critical piece of equipment you operate every single day. Maintain it with the same care you give your rig. Do the prep work, manage your conditions, gather your documents. Walk into that exam room not with anxiety, but with the confidence of a professional who is prepared, in control, and ready to get back on the road safely. That's how you pass your physical. That's how you protect your career.